Today I'm doing a walk around, quick review and drive of my W220 Mercedes S600. So as I say, this is the W220 era Mercedes S-Class. The S600, I've had this car about a year now. When I got it, it had quite a lot of gold paraphernalia. I will stick a photo of that up. So for example, it had a gold Mercedes star at the front here, gold grille. It had 20-inch gold rims, which got a lot of attention from people half my age who seemed to like them, but weren't quite my thing. So I've changed the wheels. You can see the last bit of remaining gold is at the back here, which I haven't got rid of yet. So this is a 2003 model, and the S600 before that came as a naturally aspirated 5.8 V12, around about 400 horsepower, I believe. This one is the 5.5, I think it's the M275 engine, so 5.5 V12 BiTurbo. So always wanted a V12, so produces around 500 horsepower, about 800 Newton meters. Which for the era is quite a lot of power. 21 years old now. These cars came with a huge spec, obviously all leather, heated and cooled seats. Got a walnut dash and trim. Obviously looks quite dated in here, being from 2003. It does have a CD player. Did have a phone, which is now kind of redundant. Some interesting carpets in here. It's also got a Bose sound system. The rear of these is super luxury. Huge amount of space in these, and adjustable and heated rear seats here. So rear adjustments, which is quite rare to see heated and cooled. That's pretty rare in a car, let alone from 2003. Obviously you've got your own aircon controls in the back, and of course the essential fridge, which is pretty cool. So really ridiculous cars for the era. I think these are about £100,000 or more, possibly new, back in 2003. So they cost a lot. Got the tilt and slide sunroof. I believe this car has factory fit AMG side skirts, front splitter. Let me know, I don't think these were standard on the S600, maybe on the S55 AMG. These also have soft closed doors. There you go, you can see still working well on this car. So looking a bit dirty now. I haven't given the engine bay a clean for a little while. As a beast of an engine, huge great thing. 5.5 V12 as I say, with a couple of turbos strapped on. The same engine, well basically a kind of derivative of this engine went into Pagani. Obviously I think strengthened rods, bigger turbos, etc. But ultimately this was the start of that engine, the Pagani engine. This is obviously an aftermarket engine cover that the previous owner put on, a bit more gold here. So I think this has an aftermarket exhaust modification. I think the resonators might have been deleted from this. It's fairly loud on startup. So these cars had the infamous ABC suspension, active body control suspension, pneumatic system. Gives a great ride, but can be prone to needing some expensive repairs, the ABC pump, etc. in the older cars. So it's working well on this car. It's had the pump replaced and lots of the hosing replaced, so it's all in good working order. And I'll show you that the 3 different settings for the ride height. It also has a stiffening up of the suspension for a sports suspension setting. So I'll show you those different ride heights now. They make quite a difference actually. So that's just a very quick walk around of my S600. Take her out for a drive shortly. I may not have time now, so probably a different day, and give you my thoughts and review of her driving. So I'll just give you a quick run over of what this car's like, what kind of tech it has, bearing in mind this is 2003, what it's like to drive, and yeah, just a quick overview. So first thing to say, it's kind of dominated by the engine, obviously. Silky smooth V12, it's incredible. Huge amount of torque, about 800 Newton meters as standard, which I believe was possibly slightly more than the S555 at the time, which obviously had a different engine that had the supercharged 5.5 V8 as opposed to this BiTurbo V12. So yeah, it rides along beautifully. The engine is really quiet. I guess the thing to say, and you may hear it on the video, I'm not sure, is the exhaust note on this. So I don't know exactly what's been done to the exhaust. I expect it was probably a resonator delete or something before I got it. The guy said it was standard. It is definitely not. You can hear there's a real drone. I mean, personally, I don't think it should have been done on this car. Whilst it's great to hear the V12, sorry, it's droney at motorway speeds, at low revs. It really drones. Yeah, it's not great. I mean, it does sound good when you're kind of full throttle, but the payoff of the drone isn't the best. And this car is meant to be quiet, right? It's not a kind of brash, noisy car. It's a super luxury executive car that's meant to be kind of quiet and stealthy. So yeah, I'm not sure that was a great idea, but there you go. That's how it was when I got it. As I say, huge waves of torque. Runs about 500 horsepower. This, you know, apparently did, I think, 4.5 seconds 0 to 60, which for a 2003 kind of super saloon of this size is pretty quick. I've never wanted to try it. I'm not that confident in the gearbox, to be honest. Don't want to stress it out. It's now 21 years old almost, so I'm being kind to it. Mechanical sympathy. But yeah, this has got the I think the S500 of the time, S55. Sorry, the S55 had the later 7-speed gearbox. They stuck with the 5-speed gearbox in this car because of the extra torque, and they needed that box to handle the extra torque. So, you know, it does feel quite old. It's very slow changes. They're very smooth. It's meant to be solid. I think there's some issues with this box. I'll perhaps go into it in a bit more detail, all the issues around this car in a separate video, because there's a lot of them. But suffice to say, it's sometimes under hard acceleration jumped, or it seemed to do a kind of thump and then get stuck in a gear. I've since had the gearbox oil changed and it is much better. It's only done it a couple of times, but I think it's probably also the speed sensor, which I debated getting done at the same time, but the garage didn't want to do it, etc. So long story short, it's meant to be a very robust box, but I think it's probably the parts rather than the speed sensor, for example, that's the problem rather than the actual box itself. So you can see lovely acceleration there. It's just effortless. You rarely need to rev this higher than about 3,500 rev, because I think maximum torque starts at or below 2,000 RPM. So what does this have? It's got a nice wood and leather steering wheel. It's got a heated steering wheel. I think possibly the first car I've ever had a heated steering wheel on. I have used it once, I think. Yeah, it's not really my thing, but I guess it's nice to have. It's obviously got fully electric adjustable seats. So you can see, I don't know if you can see here on the side, multiple adjustments here. What's this? Four different adjustments. They're very comfortable. They're fairly supportive. They're more like kind of armchairs, which you maybe expect in this type of car, super luxury car. Yeah, they're comfortable. Heated, also cooled, so it's got the
full leather as well. It's got the I think they're just cooled with small fans in the back. I don't think it really works. It like puffs a tiny tiny bit of air, and that's the cooling. It's got memory function, electric adjustable mirrors which can fold in, etc. And when I say memory, I think they go into a set position when you go into reverse. So that's quite neat for a 2003 car. So it's got cruise control, speed limit control. It's got, which I love, the electric blind. So you press a button and the blind comes up at the back, which I think is super cool. It's got parking sensors front and back. So these are the sensors here. So you get a beep and orange lights come on up to red until you get very close. It's also got the same on the rear. So Mercedes do it that they put the display so you can all see it in your mirror when you're reversing, which I think is quite a neat trick. So we've got parking sensors, and then we've got the ABC suspension, so the active body control, obviously the pneumatic suspension, which is famous and infamous for all the expensive troubles. This has a sport setting which stiffens it up a bit. You can also put the body position in 3 different settings, so very low, middle setting and a high setting. I tend to do it in the middle setting. The low setting it shouldn't do, so I think there's another issue here with the slight sagging, that the wheels rub slightly on the arches on a hard turn. That shouldn't happen, so that's why I avoid using the lowest one. I think it might automatically go into a lower setting when you reach a certain speed. I can't quite remember. I should have researched that. Traction control and a button here to put down the rear headrests electronically. So stereo, it's got a radio, CD changer, 6 CD changer in the boot. It did have a phone system and a navigation system, but those are so old as to be useless now. Obviously 21 years old, technology was quite different. Air conditioning, it's got a sport and comfort mode on the gearbox, so the sport just holds on to the gears a little bit longer when you're accelerating. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it is noticeable. Engine stop button on the gearbox, another thing that isn't working here. It's also got auto wipers and auto xenon headlights, so to have the auto lights, I think, on this age car is very nice. Full leather dash, this nice kind of Alcantara headlining, which is really nice. Tip and slide sunroof, so it's very well equipped, as you'd expect. Obviously the rear, as I showed in the walk around, have heated, cooled, adjustable leather seats, and there's a fridge in the back as well, so it's quite a lot for an old car. I guess some of the things I notice about this is actually the lack of storage space. So there's a decent size kind of bin in the door panel here, but the space in here is almost non-existent. I mean, it's so small. You get virtually nothing. There's of course no cup holders in this, which is I guess just a sign of the times, but it's actually quite common. I do have a drink, particularly if you have a coffee or something that's hot. There's nowhere really to put it secure, and it doesn't slop around. So, like I say, just a sign of the times, but you notice these things, and for the size of the car, the lack of storage space is quite surprising. But this is really about the super luxury driving experience, and I guess I've always wanted a V12. This is the first V12 I have. Whether or not it's the last, I don't know, but unfortunately some of the issues have really killed the enjoyment of this car. So at the moment I'm going to the garage, and I'm got a kind of a bearing type noise, real kind of harsh vibration bearing noise under load at the engine between a particular rev range, I won't go into all the details here. As I say, I'll do that in another video, but I suspect it may now be a pulley, the belt tensioner pulley. So I'm going to get that changed. Fingers crossed that works. It's such a shame that the problems with this car have killed the enjoyment of it. I was so excited about getting it, and I still love it in principle, but there's some major mechanical issues and also the kind of niggling small issues which, as I say, just unfortunately kill the enjoyment. It is a lovely car to drive. It feels ridiculous with the V12, and it is ridiculous. So smooth, you've got effortless power to overtake. I guess the downside is the gearbox, the downshift if you want to overtake isn't great. You can do that manually just by flicking across the gear lever to the left. You see we're down into third there, up to fourth and fifth. The flip side is that it's got so much torque you almost don't need it. But I like to overtake things on slower roads, and it's still pretty decent. You can surprise a few cars. So the sport setting on the suspension does noticeably stiff it up. I still find it's quite wallowy round corners. I don't find the steering that direct. Obviously it's a very big car, it's not meant to have sporty handling, but I think overall it's not bad. It's just a slight kind of floaty feeling. I've never had a car with the ABC suspension, so maybe it feels a bit more like that. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. You can, with the lowest setting, get the car really pretty low to the ground, and hopefully you saw that in the walk around part of the video I did. And that, of course, helps handling a lot, lowering the centre of gravity, and it does feel much better. And actually, I guess, fairly sporty, really, for the size and style of car. So I've kind of contradicted myself there. I guess the point here is that I rarely drive it in the lowest setting, unless I'm on kind of fast roads with minor corners because of the problem I mentioned with the wheel arch rubbing. So yeah, I don't find it hugely direct. The steering, and that would be a criticism. The brakes are okay without being amazing. I think I may have a slight issue with my discs, which I'll go into in another video, as I say, along with a host of other problems. But overall, yeah, I enjoy driving this car. It's kind of quite an event getting in a V12 to drive it now, especially nowadays. So I like that in my cars. I like them to feel a bit different and special. So from that aspect, it ticks the boxes. Yeah, lovely smooth acceleration, but I don't know if that bearing noise comes out. You can hear it under heavier load, accelerative load. You can hear the bearing noise more. So, well, I think it's a bearing. I was previously told it's the ABC pump, and that's another story. So yeah, I still I want to love this car, but I really find it quite difficult to love it. And of course, you've got to remember with this, it's pretty expensive to run on some kind of medium to long journeys. I've touched 20 mpg, only for an instant, not for the whole journey, I should add. It's really not very fuel efficient, as you might expect. Low to mid-teens is normal. On a run, you can get potentially mid to high teens mpg if you're not too quick and it's relatively slow moving traffic. If you cruise at slightly faster speeds, there's no way you'll get that. So it costs a lot to run, but you don't get a BiTurbo V12 and expect good MPG. So I will leave it there and say thank you very much for watching.